Hello, Kazakhstan. My name is Minkyoung. For several years now, I have been living and working in Almaty. I teach Korean and also research the relationship between Korea and Central Asian countries. I like theaters very much, but I don't always have the time to go to performances. My friend Zakir and I have already visited the opera and ballet theater. But today, I will finally see this iconic theater. And as it is the opening of the new theatrical season, I was promised a whole tour and a meeting with the theater employees. Hello, we're glad to welcome you to our theater. Today we open our 88th theatrical season with the ballet Swan Lake. Today you will meet the theater's ballet master, choreographer, and sheet music keeper. You will see the score, which our symphony orchestra still works on. Oh, cool. We're glad to welcome you. Please come along. You have a cool atmosphere here. Well, this is the first theater in our country. We can say that at first we were a musical theater. Then we were named an academic theater. Now we're a national theater. We recently got that name. Sounds serious. Our building is historical, an architectural monument, and you can learn about our history at the stand. By the decision of Board of the People's Commissariat of Education of the Kazakh SSR of September the 29th, 1933 in Almaty, the musical studio consisting of 50 actors, 20 symphonic musicians and 12 musicians of folk orchestra have been created. On January the 13th, 1934, the first public performance of the musical comedy Ayman Sholpan, staged by Musical Studio, according to Mukhtar Auyezov's stage play, had marked the birth of the Kazakh musical opera and ballet theater, according to People's Commissariat for Education decision. On November the 7th, 1941, the theater was opened in its own building. The same year, the theater has received the academic status, and in 1945, the name of Abai has been given to it. In addition to our museum, where you can see the first posters and scores, we have exhibits of the first costumes of the productions that took place on the big stage of the theater. Here's the Abai Opera. It's more interesting here, isn't it? What an archive. Here's Burjan and Sarah, the first written scores. By hand, yeah? Yes. See, they still come with the marks. That is, here are the marks made with a pencil, by hand. It's Jibek. This is also the Kazakh national dress, isn't it? Well, you could say so, yes. And this is Spartacus. Ballet Spartacus. We recently hosted the premiere of a comeback production, a renewed production of the ballet Spartacus by Aram Khachaturian. These are icons, right? You call this window so? Fresco. Fresco, yeah. This is also a stained glass window. Our stained glass window. During the reconstruction and renovation, interior has been preserved except for a few details. And this stained glass window is also the hallmark of our theater.
On my time here, yeah, I've been a couple times. It was opera, ballet, and theater. And okay, one thing is as well, you can say it's international language because it's art. And I like the performance here. And I think it's really nice. And they put like good efforts on it. So it's also really, really good here.
Hello. Can I simply call you Guljan? Yeah, sure. My name is Min. Very nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. What is your position in this theater? Well, now I work as the artistic director of our theater's ballet. I used to dance myself, of course. Oh, you danced yourself? Yes. I was the prima ballerina of this theater. I danced almost all the leading roles. I took part in international competitions. I'm a diploma winner. Well, in general, I have a lot of experience. And eventually, I got a degree as a stage ballet master. Great. Please tell me, how did you get into this at all? You mean ballet? Yes. Well, it was, you could say, by accident. In those years, when I was a kid, children used to be recruited, selected, and carefully watched at schools. And then I got into one of these selections, first to the Almaty Choreographic School. And that year, I was lucky, because recruiting commission came from Moscow. They selected me from Moscow from those who had already been selected for the Almaty school. And when I arrived in Moscow, I passed the casting again. So it turned out that I passed 3 selections to get into the Moscow Academic Choreographic School. I graduated from it with honors and came to my homeland, to Kazakhstan, and continued my creative activity here. It turns out that after graduation you returned to your country, to Kazakhstan, and started working in this theater. Yes, quite right. Cool, cool.
I was in opera theater. It's very, very interesting. The structure, starting from the structure, is beautiful. I go around to see. I see different costumes. They are very, very interesting. And I watched the performance too. It was very, very amazing. So I know because Kazakhstan has been in, not now, I think historically when you see the Soviet Union time, Kazakh people, they are very active in theater. You know, they have a lot of stars, legends in Kazakhstan who, you know, they played different kind of old theater during Soviet Union, you know. And so when I went to this opera theater, I'm not surprised because Kazakhstan, you know, Kazakh actors, they've been active from, you know.
I was told this dress is your own dress. Is it true? It's true. Well, this is Tutu from the Sleeping Beauty ballet, the part of Aurora. The play was staged in 1997. We keep it here. So you used to dance in the Swan Lake Ballet. If I'm not mistaken, there are white birds and black birds. White swan and black swan. You are absolutely right. This performance can be called a paragon. It's very complex. This is a certified classic. The ballerina who danced in Swan Lake is the biggest honor, yeah? Quite right. Indeed, the white swan and the black swan, they differ. And in movement, of course, and in temper. I was lucky enough to dance in this performance for all 22 years that I was on our stage. And being quite young, working for the first year, having come to work in our theater, the chief ballet master, Zaur Galiyevich Raybaev, trusted in me and gave me this role in my rookie year. It was very difficult, and this was a rare chance. Therefore, of course, I know this part very well, and I understand that it is very difficult. But we have a lot of ballerinas dancing in this performance, and they dance successfully. Today we open the 88th theatrical season. Of course, this is always very exciting. So when nervous, we always want to please our viewers. Gulzhan, please tell me, what is the difference between the current-day theater and the theater of the years when you just came here in '82? Well, this is certainly not an easy question. What is the difference? Well, first of all, I want to say that the repertoire is different. Now our repertoire is more various. In addition to classical performances, we also have modern performances. At that time, there were almost no modern performances. I remember that there was one performance that Zaur Galiyevich Raibayev staged to the music of Honegger, a man and a woman. At that time, it was an innovative, one-act performance. It really was modern. Unfortunately, it did not last long, but it was so unusual and interesting. Maybe the audience then did not understand it thoroughly, was not ready. But now our viewers are quite attentive, loving, and versatile. They always want to see something new emotions, new plastics, new choreography, new performances, new solutions. We feel that they are open to many things. Therefore, our repertoire is now more diverse. And we do not want to stop but to look for some new forms, new performances, and new modern ones. Because almost our entire classical repertoire is very rich and something we cannot even show all of it during the season.
Yes, I like classic music. I have in my bag some classic music that I put in the computer, and sometimes I play it. Sometimes. It's nice. I've heard the name and I've listened some to the Kazakh, but I like all opera and I like it. When I was young, my idol was I would pretend to be him. And so before I sang in a group, I sang when I was young. So, and I love formal, classic. My wife is a musician. So I love music, I love my wife.
What's some interesting performance from Kazakhstan? An opera or ballet can you recommend for a foreigner, for a tourist? What should we watch here? A very interesting performance. We call it 3 single-act ballets. Little Fights is very famous. This is by Mikhail Fokin and performed by our artists. This is not a new production. Many viewers may have seen it already, but this production comes with 2 completely new performances that are not staged anywhere else in the world. Discovering Bach, the one-act ballet scored by Johann Sebastian Bach, and Bolero, scored by Maurice Ravel. They're original and interesting, and were recently performed in Nur-Sultan on the stage of the Astana Opera and performed successfully. I would also recommend The Fountain of Bakhchisarai, staged by Rostislav Zakharov, choreography. This ballet suits our troupe very well. It is oriental, so it is very colorful and interesting. Also, recently we had an update of the Spartacus with choreography by Zaurbek Raibayev, the music of Aram Khachaturian. This performance was also a great success, so I would also recommend watching it, because this type of choreography is performed only in our theater. Guljan, if I'm not mistaken, in one of your interviews you said that there was a new edition of Swan Lake. Did I understand you correctly? Yes. Can you tell me a little bit about it? But I will tell you a little background story. Swan Lake performance in our theater has been going on for many years. It's significant for any theater. This performance had several editions. The last version was choreographed by Vladimir Ivanovich Burtsov. As I know from our masters, he used the edition of the Kirov Theater back then. And generally, the first act, the second and the fourth acts remained untouched. But I changed the third act, because the scene with the brides was somewhat not clear, not entirely logical. And I changed a little the concept that brides came from different countries. There was a ball and the queen. The prince's mother offered to choose a bride. There was a Hungarian bride, a Russian bride, there was a Neapolitan one, Italian so to say, and the choreography of the bride's dance itself was changed. And it's just that there is a purely conceptual adjustment of the dances, so that they are understandable and more logical. That is, there are no big changes in this performance, only the third act. Well, probably in the classics, big changes are impossible. Yes, because there is a certain succession of generations to which people are already used to. The second act is by Lev Ivanov, and the second act is performed all over the world, basically unchanged, with the same addition and choreography. Therefore, we see no reason to change. Sometimes it is better to stage a new performance, because in my stock there are completely new performances, for example, original ones. These are the cantata ballet, Carmina Burana, the ethnic ballet legends of the Great Step, and so on. So you prefer the more original classics, right? Well, for the choreography herself, it's certainly more interesting to stage it completely from scratch. Well, of course, when you make a new edition, it really needs to be done carefully, very competently. If you make any changes so that they really improve the performance somehow, this, of course, is a great responsibility. The best option is always the original one. Well, sometimes time goes on. Viewers sometimes need more dynamics of perception. Sometimes it just needs to be changed a little. Let's say so that is not so archaic.
I think Almaty by itself is a cultural city. I mean, you see a lot of theaters, cinemas, parks. Almaty is a city that has everything you want in a city. It has a lot to offer. I have seen a lot of the Russian theater, the Kazakh theater, the Uyghur theater, the Chechen theater. There's so many of them, and the ballet, which I love very much, and I go from time to time. The Grand Opera Theater, which I think is really beautiful in Almaty.
How many years have you been in this field? 30-something years already? In total? Yeah, in total. I started in 1982, so the next year it will be 40 years. I dance and teach and manage. But we have many colleagues who work in the theater for a really long time and pass on their experience to the younger generation. Now I want to say that our troupe has recently got younger, and I'm very happy about that. There was a period when no one new joined us at all. Now young people want to come to our theater. This probably means that we offer creativity they're very interested in. And furthermore, our theater is famous. As they say, we have a historical stage, an interesting repertoire. Our youth always grows. If they really want this, if they have potential, if they have some abilities, they can always find a use for themselves here and advance their good qualities.
I don't remember what it was. I saw, it was a Western opera, but done in Kazakh language, so I don't remember I couldn't figure out what they were saying. But it was like a Western story, and this was like 7 years ago, so bear with me if I don't remember the details. And it was really interesting. I guess it was pretty well done. Everyone loved it.
Over the course of these 40 years, you have probably come across many famous actresses. Please tell me, what actresses were your partners? If we talk about partners, I performed in Leningrad with a soloist of the Mariinsky Theater, Atjamov, and with a soloist of the Uzbek Theater, Bahidjan Smagulov, who is now in Perm. And here's the people's artist now. Great joy for our theater, and for me personally, was cooperation with the masters of the world choreography. Yuri Nikolaevich Grigorovich came here to stage the ballet The Legend of Love with Natalia Igorevna Besmertnova and his entire team, and 3 years later he had come to the production of Romeo and Juliet. These performances are in our repertoire, and this of course is a great happiness for any theater. Boris Yakovlevich Eifman has also staged his performances, such as his iconic Red Giselle and Anna Karenina. These were very interesting performances with modern choreography. Not every troupe can handle it at all, but our artists are doing it. And the legend of the world choreography, Gabriela Komleva, also visited us. She staged 2 performances with us. These were Sleeping Beauty and La Bayadere. Therefore, we're lucky in this regard. And so many stars of the world ballet from different countries of the world, from the Bolshoi Theater and from the United States of America and from Europe have toured and now on tour with us. May I ask, this might be not an easy question. What does theater mean to you? For me, this is probably my vocation, because theater is associated with my activities, with my occupation, which is ballet. We serve art, and this is probably a vocation, and the theater is probably my soul. But I want to emphasize that you need to understand that it is wrong to completely lose yourself right in it. Of course, our life is very multifarious, and don't get stuck. I try, of course, not to dwell on this at all. I just try to share all my soul, all my skills, all my experience with the younger generation. I want the younger generation to further develop our theater, of course, so that they would be better than us, so that our theater would prosper and be on par with other world theaters. Here is one of our most important rarities, the music sheet of the Swan Lake Ballet. It has been performed in our theater for 83 years. For 83 years! And for all 83 years, the performance has been conducted according to this sheet. And you kept everything. Yes, you see its current condition, torn into pieces. Several times we tried to offer our conductors a different sheet, but they asked for this one. It has absorbed the spirit of Swan Lake for these 83 years. You see, the paper is very thin and shabby. This sheet was published in the 19th century, the century before last, and they walk with it, as you can see. Markings made with a magic marker indicates that this is surely the end of the 20th century. The play was staged for the first time in March 1938, and the leading soloist of the Bolshoi Theater, Leonid Zhukov, came to stage it. For many years he had danced. First at the Imperial Bolshoi Theater, and then at the Bolshoi Theater of the USSR. And for 2 years he worked here as a guest stage director and soloist. But the first ballet was staged a year before, in 1937. It was the Capella. This was done by his colleague Yuri Kovalyov. By the way, he was also the soloist here, and he staged many performances. And here's the poster for Swan Lake. It keeps two names that were the origins of the Kazakhstani and Kazakh ballet. These are Alexander Vladimirovich Seleznyov, whom our choreographic school is named after, and choreographer Yuri Kovalyov was the first director of Swan Lake. And then Zhukov restaged it, so they worked together. In general, here we have our first posters. This is the poster of the first Kazakh ballet. Ah, of the Kazakh ballet, yes. You see, the poster is printed with Latin letters. Yeah, I see. Because as you know, from 1934 to 1940, Kazakh language used the Latin alphabet. Velikanov's music and the performance were not always understood. As one of the viewers said, this is music for the deaf and dumb. And if you translate the name into Russian, what does it mean? Kalkaman Mamur. These are two heroes of the Kazakh epic. Velikanov's music and production. Who did it? Was everything in Kazakh? Yes, in Kazakh. And Zhukov staged it. Zhukov did it. Kurmanbek Zhanerbekov was a director, our great people. The conductor was Fyodor Kuzmich, a very interesting person who was a musician himself. As far as I remember, he played the French horn and also conducted. What was the year, you say? 1938. You see, premiere, June 38. The beginning of the Kazakh choreographic art was the ballet by Vasily Velikanov to the libretto of Mukhtar Uyezov, Kalkaman and Mamur. The play was created in 1938 by the choreographer of the Bolshoi Theater of the USSR, Leonid Zhukov. During his work on the ballet, the composer Vasily Velikanov used the profound Kazakh musical folklore. The role of Mamur was performed by Shara Zhenkulova, the first dancer of the Kazakh ballet, People's Artist of Kazakhstan. The premiere took place on June the 24th, 1938. The staging of the first national Kazakh ballet was widely covered in the media. Critics called Kalkaman and Mamur bold and exciting. divest of traditional clichés and provisions. Here's the poster of Jibek. This is already the second production post-war, because with this performance, as it is believed, the Kazakh opera began. Although in January 1934, the play Ayman Sholpan was staged to the music of Qazakh. However, it was just a conversational performance that included musical elements, and music was accompanied by folk musicians. And it was Ayman Sholpan that was performed on January the 13th in 1934 in the Musical and Drama Theatre. And on January the 17th, it was already held by the Kazakh Opera and Ballet Theatre. And therefore, from this time on, we keep the history of the Kazakh opera art. Surely, the premiere took place on November the 7th, 1934. The lineup was very small, and Brusilovsky collected all the most famous songs here. Generally, it was a collective work. He processed, and everyone who participated in the production tried to find songs to characterize the main characters of this performance the most. About Jibek, last year we again made a new production, just like water polishes a stone, and it becomes round. So the performance was polished. Now, in this performance, there are about 20 numbers. At some time, they fell off. They were left out of the general script. I will show you one more poster of Jibek, where dances are also written. There was Uyghur dance, Chinese dance, lantern dance. That is, there were a lot of different numbers. Even a Spanish dance. Apparently, it was essential to show the abilities of the Kazakh ballet troupe. Nurlan, I wanted to ask you, at the time, the opera Jibek had more Kazakh music or contemporary international music? The music of Jibek is of course ethnic, but this is one of the first pieces orchestrated for a symphony orchestra. The performance was the very first. General, in the first sheets, it was not listed as an opera, it was called a musical play. And the music was written by Evgeny Brusilovsky. But here we can see that in 1944, the conductor Evgeny Vasilievich Manaev made a new instrumentation for the large orchestra, because the first orchestra had 11 people only. And then for the current lineup, a complete symphony orchestra, he did a large orchestration with Brusilovsky's consent, of course. And now the performance is played by Manaev instrumentation. With the release of the first Kazakh opera, Jibek, in 1934, the development of opera in Kazakhstan began. This outstanding work was written by the composer Evgeny Brusilovsky to the libretto of the playwright Gabit Musrepov. The literary basis for the Jibek was the plot of the eponymous Kazakh folk poem. Creating the opera, Evgeny Brusilovsky, being a great connoisseur and collector of folk music, scrupulously picked the best examples of folk song and instrumental creativity. The founder of the Kazakh composing school found the correct forms of citing folk tunes, keeping a careful attitude to the stylistic features of the original. Throughout the existence of the Kazakh Opera and Ballet Theatre, Jibek by Evgeny Brusilovsky remains one of the most beloved and demanded opera performances. How does the current Kazakh opera differ from the Russian opera? Is there a difference between them? For 40 years, a Kazakh troupe and Russian opera group have worked concurrently. They worked together. Russian singers sang in Kazakh performances. The famous Era Epaneshnikova sang very well in the performance, if I'm not mistaken, of Dudarai. Kazakh singers took part in Russian operas. Several operas were staged in the Kazakh language, including the famous Evgeny Onegin. Gulash Baysitova sang the main part in it, and she sang in the Kazakh language. Shio Shio San was sung in Kazakh. There were many performances, but unfortunately, after the war, somewhere around 1950, it was decided to perform only in Russian, not even in the original language. We used the concept of the original language then, but they sang everything in Russian. And on the resolution that cancelled the Kazakh translations of the performances, that's wrong. Unfortunately, this reduced her theater repertoire. She began to sing only in Kazakh performances. Thank you. And this is the museum of our theater. Here are our entire history in costumes created by our great artists. Sketches of costumes by Gulfairuz Ismailova for the opera Abai and for the opera Aida. These are the works of our great Gulfairuz. Here are sketches of costumes, two versions of Aidar's costume, the costume of Jirenshie and Jirenshie's assistants, Mes and Narinbet, from Abai Opera. Here are the sketches of the scenery. You see, it is very beautifully done. In fact, these are full-fledged paintings, but they picture the way scene will look. Yeah, so the scenery would be accurate. And what about this sketch? This is the Radames headdress and belt from the Aida. It was done for our soloist Vasily Yakovenko, and this is again the work of Gulfairuz Ismailova. Gulfairuz Ismailova is a Kazakh theater artist and painter, film actress, people's artist of Kazakhstan, honored art worker of the Republic of Kazakhstan. For 16 years, she worked as the chief artist of the State Academic Opera and Ballet Theatre named after Abai. She made a great contribution to the development of theatrical and film art as the creator of original forms and images in the decoration of performances and films. Works by Gulfairuz Ismailova are in the collections of museums in Kazakhstan and Russia, as well as in foreign private collections. Nurlan, since what year did you start working in this theater? Well, I've already been in the theater for 28 years. 28 years? When did you start? Since 1993. I came here as a student. Why did you choose the theater for yourself? First, it was interesting to me. Secondly, there is a conservatory nearby. It's very convenient, although the work in the theater is much more difficult and more time-consuming than, let's say, in the State Symphony Orchestra. But I started working here. I liked it. I felt here. Why do you think it is more difficult to work in the theater? We play more pieces a month. When a symphony orchestra plays 4 or 5 programs in 1 month, we have 4 performances a week. 4 performances a week. 4 performances a week. By the way, when I came to the theater, there were 8 performances a week, 6 evenings a week. There were performances from Tuesday to Sunday, and on weekends there were performances for children in the mornings. But still, the work is so difficult, but you stayed here in the theater, so you really liked it. Do I get it right? Yes, it is interesting to work here. What exactly interests you in this work? It is the music. Music. By the way, do you work as a musician in theater? What instrument do you play? Yes, I work in theater for musicians in the viola group. Our previous music sheet keeper passed away, and I was approached with a proposal to take up the music library. You wear 2 hats, don't you? Yes, I do. Is it difficult for you? Well, there's certain complications. Well, it's also interesting here because through the music sheets, you get in touch with people from the past. For example, in the notes of the Queen of Spades, there is a phrase. On this day, in 1943, the Allies bombed such and such city. Once at the end of the performance, Rajan and Sarah, an earthquake began, but the actress kept playing, kept acting. Good for them. There were only 20 minutes left until the end of the performance, and they thought, we will finish it. And the play was finished. They kept those notes there. Yes, they wrote that there was an earthquake, but they finished the performance. This is a very exciting and interesting moment. What a cool job. I'm jealous in a good way. Come work with us in the music library. Will you let me? Surely. Come to work here. Yeah, I got myself a job. It was a busy and very educational day. And now the climax of the cultural program, legendary Swan Lake and the genius music of Tchaikovsky. My emotions are inexpressible. I feel like a little girl caught in a wonderful fairy tale. And you know, I'm happy to approach the high art created by genuinely passionate people.